Good afternoon, or rather, good late morning. I'm Henry Kenyon. I'm the senior staff writer with GovCIO Media and Research, and we're going to be having our final panel here on AI and contracting. We'll be talking about some of the priorities and opportunities and challenges AI adoption has in the federal government in the contracting space. So with me are Neil Chaudhry, Senior AI Advisor with the Department of Transportation, Jeffrey Sage, Director of Enterprise Services of the Enterprise Services and Analysis Division in the NASA Office of Procurement, and Birgit Smeltzer, Director at the General Services Administration's IT Products Services Center, which is part of the Federal Acquisition Service. So perhaps to start and get a good picture of the situation, I'd like to talk to Birgit. As a lead member of GSA's OneGov team, you've noted before that there have been recent significant recent discounts in AI acquisitions. And so as a good perspective, what happens when those discounts end? How will this affect agencies, and are there any next steps?
Yeah, so the OneGov initiative has been very successful, and to date we've achieved approximately 1.62 billion in cost savings for the federal government. 1.4 billion of that stems from AI limited time offers. So we recognize that number may not capture the full impact because some agencies might have used the OneGov pricing to negotiate pricing on their own contracts outside of GSAs. So you're also correct that many of the OneGov offerings are limited time offers, and we continue to work very closely with the OEMs to get extensions of those offers or maybe get new offers in place. We look very much at what makes sense for the government and what may not have taken flight so much, and put some offers out there that work for our agencies. So some of the OEMs have already agreed to extend some of the limited time offers, and some are looking at producing new offers for us. So just keep working with us, and we'll be able to let you know what is happening in that world.
I'd like to open this up to Neil also.
I do have a little bit more that I'd like to.
Please,
that I'd
go
like
ahead.
to add to that. So even when the prices eventually increase, the offers have already created significant value for agencies. So I recently served on a panel with a former CIO who explained that before the limited time offers, he found himself in a situation where he had to make a decision on who got the few licenses that the agency could afford to provide for AI. So that created some difficult questions. So, but who should get access? How do you ensure fairness? How do you provide equal opportunity for employees to experiment and learn and improve their work? And those questions also became challenging, and labor and workforce considerations came into play. So with the limited time offers, that has allowed a much wider sector of the employees to use and try using AI, he now can make have been able to make a data-driven decision of who was actually using it for the purpose of improving workflows and those type of things.
Mm-hmm. So no, interesting, and I'd like to open it up to Neil. You'd previously worked at the GSA's Technology Transformation Services and the AI Center of Excellence, and you've noted before that you mostly did acquisition work when you were there. Can you tell us about why you were focused on contracts and what you were doing?
So yes, thank you so much. For a lot of folks who know me, right? I am very partial to industry. I don't see industry as a competitor, but as a value add to what government does. And my time at the Technology Transformation Services was just an amazing opportunity that I'm so grateful to have had in my career. And the three things that I did learn while I was there, one was, It's about learning with industry. And second thing is working with industry. And the third thing is executing with industry. And when you think about the roadmap of how government buys things, right? You typically have either a demand signal from somebody that says, we need to do something, we need to improve this particular aspect of a program, or you'll have some industry engagement, you'll have something that starts. But when it starts, that's when the acquisition process starts. That's when folks have to make those determinations on what exactly is it that the problem we're trying to solve, how to define the problem, how to narrow down the decision-making space with the tools that can help solve the problem. And then once that's done, passing it on to our procurement partners who are subject matter experts in what they do to get the best value for the government. So if we don't do our pre-planning, our acquisition planning right, procurements are never going to go well. And part and parcel is, like things that I do here, this engaging with industry, is finding out what's out there in the market space. What is the average cost of things? How do products work? How do they integrate with our current technologies? All those things that if I just stayed in my office and did not, right, I would never be able to know. And what I'll do consequently is make the job much harder for the contracting officers and the procurement staff who now all have to do this work. And the only value I'd add at that point is yelling at them on why they're late with the acquisition and why there's a protest, right? So if you do the front end work right, you not only have a better buy for the government, for the taxpayer, a better value, but you also have a faster acquisition because you're not redoing work. So that's really what it boils down to. And the kind of things that, if you're here and you're talking to your government partners, from multiple agencies, the types of things that I saw that were really valuable that I haven't seen scaled in a lot of organizations are things like, when we talk about learning with industry, technology transformation services, along with our partners there, with the assisted acquisition services, and the rest of the Federal Acquisition Service team at GSA, we did really wonderful things where we collaborated with the office, the OSDBU office, the acquisition staff, the program staff, and we did something called Second Tuesday, where we'd have academic engagement, and Third Thursdays, where every third Thursday, in a month, we'd have any vendor that wanted to come and pitch and learn and talk to us. We'd have a block of time. So you didn't need to make a special appointment. You didn't need to sort of figure out how to give a card. It's first come, first serve, 20-minute blocks. You come, you talk, right? So those things were so helpful. And yes, that meant every third Thursday, I couldn't do any work. Right? That meant I was back to back from about 8 in the morning to about 5 in the evening listening to the partners. But what we were able to do is engage with our partners, tell them about the product fit, and in certain cases, we had a great program called Fast Lane, with FAS, which helps, and Springboard, which helped small businesses spring into, and grow, and being able to educate our partners on the small businesses on things like that and other avenues where they're right fit. Those types of things were so valuable, and some of those, I enjoyed that so much. So it's really about growing with industry, executing with industry, and that's my time at TTS that I've tried to emulate at Department of Transportation and every other organization I work with. Thank you so much.
Well, that was really interesting. And to widen the aperture a bit, the perspective, Jeffrey, or Jeff, sorry, at NASA, how is NASA using AI tools to help augment its personnel when they make contracting decisions?
Yeah, so It's a great question. So I think some context is helpful here. So AI for us is a necessity at this point. You know, everybody went through DRP last year in the federal government. Just like everybody else, we lost a fair number of people in the procurement space. That's really forced us to lean into new technology, AI in particular, and how we leverage it to augment our workforce. You know, as you know, we have a near impossible mission, right? We had success earlier this year with Artemis II and sending our astronauts around the moon. The Office of Procurement at NASA spends 85% of the agency's budget goes out through procurement, right? So everything that we do, everything that we touch, we enable the mission day to day that folks see in the amazing pictures from JW, the amazing stuff that we do every day. Procurement directly enables that. So for us, AI is a necessity. We are doing a lot right now to, I'd call it a crawl, walk, run. You know, so we've taken a measured approach and a risk-based approach, to be quite honest with you, in how we're integrating AI into our normal workflow. So everybody's been using it for emails and sort of the vanilla stuff, right? But now we're sort of opening that aperture and how we can leverage it on a greater scale. So we have put some guardrails in place for our folks. You know, we don't want to necessarily turn the keys to the Ferrari over to our folks to a 16-year-old, right? You would never do that. You want to have them trained. You want to have them understand how things work. So we've been that crawl, walk, run. So we've started in the pre-award side, so market research, assistance, requirements development assistance. We've been doing a lot in that space, and this is really to speed us up, right? So the faster we can get through market research, the faster I can get my rocket scientists and engineers to actually write good requirements down, the faster it comes in the procurement swim lane and allows us to do our space. We've had a bit of a red line at the moment with evaluations of competitive proposals. So that's sort of where we've set the bar for our folks in terms of AI, but anything sort of around proposal receipt to actual contract award, we've really opened up the aperture for our folks to speed their delivery.
No, interesting. And to circle back, I'd like to ask Birgit and then maybe move over to you guys. How can agencies navigate procurement constraints and accelerate AI adoption? You know, contracting is complex, and technology contracting is even more complex. And when you have a new technology, there are added wrinkles. So how can you avoid stumbling blocks?
So Anil touched a little bit on it, but so agencies are encouraged to use streamlined acquisition by utilizing current contracts. And we have established government-wide contract vehicles within GSA, cloud acquisition frameworks, AI frameworks, such as those offered by GSA to simplify their purchasing and to eliminate duplicative contracts and redundant reviews. That can help some. And then from a procurement perspective, the Federal Acquisition Services Acquisition Solution Development Organization, which I'm part of, contract vehicles and staff also deliver flexible IT solutions and services, support agency missions, and we drive innovative and agile improvements through IT category management. We love to hear from industry of how we can do things better. We love to hear from agencies on how we can help them do better and do better for them as well. But GSA is here to help agencies to buy at the speed of their technology need. So we offer a commitment to meet the customer needs, easy access to the best solutions, cost savings, as you've heard, through OneGov, and compliance with federal regulatory guidance. So customer commitment, convenience, compliance, cost savings is what we're aiming for. So, and we have a team in my organization. We have a team of cloud and AI, cybersecurity subject matter experts that are here to help both customers navigate to the right solution that they might need through our contract vehicles. But we're also here to support industry in finding the best spot to sell their services and their solutions, both products and from products and service perspective. This standardization will help strengthen security and compliance. So by adopting standardized contract terms, agencies gain consistent expectations around support, patching, access controls, and crucial safeguard for both cloud and AI environments. So our OneGov strategy drives direct partnership with original equipment manufacturers, which in turn drive accountability, and negotiating directly with the OEMs ensures that entities building and maintaining technologies are also responsible for securing it. This model strengthens the government's cybersecurity posture as well. So centralized negotiations, as we've seen with OneGov, has delivered substantial cost savings for agencies. Consolidating demand and setting common terms allows agencies to secure discounts of 60 to 70%, sometimes even more, reducing duplication and achieving economies of scale. That free up resources for mission priorities, as we've seen with the OneGov strategy already. So some AI limited offers were even offered at $1 for an entire agency, which allows for that data-driven decision we talked about before. Again, simplified procurement reduces complexity and accelerates adoption. And with our streamlined acquisition pathways, agencies can have easier access to compliant solutions that meet federal regulatory requirements and enabling faster, more secure modernization. So again, GSA is here to help both agencies and industry by offering flexibility, transparency, predictable pricing, and all while insurance compliance and maximizing taxpayer value. The result is a stronger security, lower cost, and greater availability.
Neil, Jeff, got any?
So I'll be the troublemaker here, right? So when we look at AI acquisition, it's completely different than, you know, maybe buying a tank or buying a truck or even buying, you know, cloud services. It's just a completely different game. So the thing that most folks are starting to realize, you know, because the market is stabilizing, is that cognition on AI models is doubling every 7 months. So what that means is the market research you did 6 months ago is no longer relevant by the time you write a contract. So why do we insist on writing base 1 plus 4 option year contracts for something that's going to get half in price, where the pricing and the capability is not going to be relevant in 6 months? Because it's so hard to write a contract, right? The hardest part, like when I'm a program manager, which I've been most of my life, I just want to know, I want to buy X and this price is fair because that's what, you know, the rest of folks are getting. I really don't care about the FAR matrix. I really don't care about the 72 pages of compliance documents and that negotiation, right? And that's where, you know, the government-wide vehicles are so helpful, because there's that one master negotiation, and I just have to worry about that very simple slice, which is a task order. So, you know, as a government employee, you know, that's the thing, you know, learning from TTS and other organizations like that is the difference between a contract and a task order. You know, if I can leverage a government-wide contract or another agency's vehicle using an Economy Act or something, right? All I have to worry about is a task order. And what I can do then is I can work with industry to have 6-month sprints. Firm fixed price, 6-month sprints. They know what their capability is going to be. I know what their capability is going to be. And neither side is taking unnecessary risk, right? Because we both know. And then 6 months later, we just do this. But if the process is too hard, where we're spending 8 months to negotiate the clauses on the contract, yes, then you're working a 5-year contract and nobody's happy. Everybody's pointing fingers at each other. So really leveraging, whether it's NASA or GSA, and I'm partial to GSA, I'm sorry, you know, is being able to leverage these government-wide acquisition vehicles and have your program managers, the folks that you're interacting with when you do your growth calls, is focus on the idea of how do you get a task order? What vehicle can you leverage to get on a task order so that you can get to work faster and have shorter sprints. Thank you.
Jeff, do you have any?
Just a couple
Thanks.
seconds. So for us, leveraging the OneGov has been tremendous in order to really prove value. There's a lot of good idea ferries out there, and not a lot of money. Right? So we're budget constrained. Our missions are not cheap, and we're trying to increase the volume missions that we have. So, you know, when I have a good idea ferry come to me and say, Jeff, hey, we want to do this, I'm balancing speed, right? Because I need to get it in place, as Neil said, as quickly as possible, because if I wait too long, it's going to be out of whack, and then I need to balance the dollars on it, right? So when I have a vehicle like the OneGov and what GSA offers to us from a procurement perspective, it enables me to get that requirement on contract much faster and at the best price possible. So I echo what Neil said about leveraging those other vehicles where we can, you know, I can then focus on putting a man on the moon, right? I can focus on putting somebody out to Mars, and not have to worry about this, where we can partner with GSA to get that stuff on speed. So.
And speaking about maybe putting a man on the moon, just to focus back on you, Jeff, can you discuss, I mean, NASA's doing a lot of stuff, and especially in your area. Can you talk about one or two pilot programs that NASA's, you know, where you're applying AI tools and capabilities for contracting?
Yeah, absolutely. So really the foundation of what we've been doing for the past 3-4 years with standing up the division that I oversee is really being ready for AI. So we have a lot of data readiness, and there was a talk previously that really resonated with me about having our data ready to be put into AI. You know, I've always told my folks, crap in, crap out of AI, right? So if you put junk in, expect to get junk out, or a hallucination or whatever it may be, right? So we've been doing a lot of that foundational work for the past couple of years now. We're at a point now where we're ready to see it be implemented with the AI piece. Something that's been impassioned with me as we look at our IT portfolio for procurement is trying to streamline the amount of tools and things that my folks have to go swivel chair to, right? At one point, and it was this year, I had 3 contract writing systems for our agency. I'm going to be down to 2 here in a second, and then next year should be down to 1 again, where that's going to help streamline my folks. So I've been really intentional about putting AI and integrating it in that workflow, in that work stream with our contract management system. So looking at things, like I said before, market research, clause generation, right? So speeding up that sort of administrative task that procurement folks take on of picking the right clauses, making sure there are the right terms and conditions in the contract. How do we accelerate that? Looking at requirements development. That is the long pole in the tent that we don't really, it's like sort of the hidden backroom secret, right? So some of our stuff, our missions are audacious, right? We're putting a man on the moon, we're going to Mars. It requires some rigor in those requirements, right? We want to make sure that our astronauts are safe on top of those rockets. But there's other times where we're buying protective services, or we're buying more vanilla things that we can accelerate those requirements. The other piece of the requirements, though, for us that we've been looking at is how do we ensure that there's consistency, especially in large programs and projects, where I have multiple projects under one program that all interrelate. So think our SLS rocket, we're going to put a human landing system on that rocket, we're going to put astronauts on that rocket that have spacesuits. All of those things integrate together at one point. So mass matters, size matters, right? There's a lot of things that interact. So for us to be able to go through, you know, some requirements statements, some DRD that are hundreds and thousands of pages long, and how do we integrate them across programs and projects, we're leveraging AI to help in that space. The one, and I sort of talked about before, the thin red line that we had was with evaluations and using AI in that space. And so had a lot of conversations with industry about how does the agency view AI in that competitive evaluation space. We're putting our toe into the deep end. I'll be clear. I think that for us, it's a necessity. I talked about with the DRP and what we do, that we can't avoid that. There's absolute savings for us in terms of time and accelerating the mission, that the faster we can get through a competitive evaluation process, the faster we put the requirements on a contract, the faster we execute. So we are starting to look at that now. There's a lot, and I could spend hours philosophically talking through all the different sort of scenarios and how we could use AI. But no, for us, it's a risk-based decision. Like I said, we spend 85% of the agency's budget through procurement. We can't afford AI to trip up and hamper our source evaluation process, right? Because that will then, get us a automatic 100-day GAO protest, right? And it slows up our execution. So we're being extremely mindful in that space and making sure that, for us having OGC in the room, right? They're a key partner. They're by my side as we're looking at AI tools and how we leverage them, making sure they understand the risk, how we're looking at it, what it means for the overall procurement and acquisition function at the agency. So that's a few of the things that we're looking at.
No, that's real interesting. And to circle back to Neil, are there any key differences in the requirements in contracts for AI systems versus traditional IT? And if there are, what are those differences? And do they pose any challenges to the unwary?
Absolutely. I mean, when we think about, the way things work in government, right? The expectation is there is going to be auditability, that there is a way to go back to trace a decision, right? And you go back and you say, how was this decision made? Was it arbitrary, and what is capricious? So when you go to a traditional acquisition, we used to pretty much focus on deterministic systems. So sorry for getting a little in the weeds here, but whatever we used to buy, it used to be like, if this rule is this, it results in this, and sort of we'd have our rules engines. So very easy to do that. But with AI systems, our modern AI systems and our frontier models, everything is probabilistic. So what that means is you'll get a similar answer every time you run the query or every time you run a process through your workflow, but you won't necessarily get the same answer. You'll get a very similar answer, not the same answer. So how do you build those enterprise risk mechanisms, and how do you update them where you say, is 99 close enough to 100, or do we have to hit 100 every time? And for what processes do we need to hit 100 every time, and for what processes 99 is okay? And that is where, the way you have to start thinking about AI-driven acquisitions and even the acquisition planning cycle is you can't just say, I have a generic statement of objectives or a generic statement of work. You actually have to, as part of your planning, atomize the whole process. And then within that process, work with industry to say, what part of this process is deterministic, where I can use RPA, machine learning, something else for that part of the process? Is he over 18 years old? Does he have creditable military service? Those binary questions. And then the other parts where even humans can have different judgments. You take two benefits claims adjudicators and you put them in the room. They might not come up with exactly the same answer in certain edge cases. Somebody might say not entitled to benefits. Somebody might say, yeah, entitled to benefits. And we have seen that, right? When we go to college, we have the hard professors and the easy professors, things like that. So at what point do you need to break down the process where, you are using the large language models for what is subjective work and narrow AI for what is objective work? And how do you partner with industry to be able to understand that workflow, so that what industry is not doing is, if your partner, all they know how to do is probabilistic work, they're force-fitting their probabilistic solution in the whole workflow. Or if all they know how to do is RPA, then they're just doing pseudo LLM and force-fitting their narrow AI into your whole workflow. And that's where, a plug to my organization, under Secretary Duffy, under the One DOT sort of approach, right? Very grateful that, we have forward-leaning senior procurement executive, our CIO, Pavan, and even the Assistant Secretary for Research, Ms. Oz. Everybody is in this forward-looking mindset that, for a career employee, it's okay to take a little educated risk, in this world where we don't have all the answers. And it's okay. You won't get in trouble for doing the right thing, taking an educated risk that we can walk back, right? But the worst thing you can do is not be innovative, stick with the same old, and try to force fit that 5-year methodology that no longer works. But that's where, it's these things that I keep on going back to, is engaging with industry and executing with industry, is that as a government employee, you can no longer have a mindset that you're competing with industry. You have to have that mindset that you're collaborating with industry, that industry is your partner, that your success is contingent on your industry partner, and the fact that you are being honest with your industry partner on what your actual problems are and what your requirements are, and pulling them in a lot earlier in the process to sort of ideate solutions. Thank you.
Well, it's great, and we've got a few minutes. Does anybody want to ask our panel anything on the nature of AI and contracting?
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Garrett Gilbert with ERP. Thank you guys. Phenomenal panel. I was wondering if you can talk about the use of AI in market research and like on two fronts. One, the concerns around bias, right? And as fewer and fewer humans are going to understand how LLMs work as they continue to advance, right? How do you make sure you have guardrails in place so there's not just a matching of like, it sounds like the incumbent would be a great fit for this opportunity, right? The other piece is just advice to industry of as AI gets more involved in market research, should that change how contractors respond or advice on in putting that together? Thank you.
So I'll tell you, from market research standpoint, the federal government has a tremendous amount of information that we don't leverage, right? And as humans, we're not able to leverage, right? So, you know, you go to sam.gov, you can look up every opportunity that's ever been posted by the federal government from here until eternity. You can see all the award information, you can see all that. So for me as a, I'm sure what's not liking, for me as a CO, if I was working CO, to be able to go and do like legit market research and pull that out, you know, I maybe have just natural bias even without.
Turn that off and use this one.
Yeah, it was on. Okay. So I think there's natural bias, right? Already, because I can't have access to everything. I can't see it. The AI really actually opens my aperture up, right? So if we're leveraging, and that's what we're doing, we're pulling in all the sam.gov information, being able to look based on NAICS code, PSC code. You know, we're using agentic and being able, or semantic, I should say, semantic searches, right, to be able to find that, hey, if I go out there and say I need a human rocket, we're the only ones buying human rockets, right? So, but it's helping me find the other things from DOW, NRO, like other folks that are doing similar stuff, type work. So actually AI is helping us reduce some of that bias in that space because we're actually able to do more. I will tell you in our position in market research, so when we're doing RFIs, when we're doing draft RFPs, we're really encouraging industry to be vocal, right? Give us feedback. We don't know unless you tell us. You know, there's a lot of times, and Neil sort of talked about, you know, we have the problem, certainly, right? That's why we're coming out for a contract. Sometimes we over-solution those problems, right? And so we're really looking for industry to engage with us during that market phase. Don't be a passive point in that phase of the procurement life cycle. Need you guys to engage. Need you guys to tell us, hey, this works, or what you're saying is that was like so like last week, right? This is this week, and this is how we're doing it. So just, you know, suggest being active participant, reaching out through small business offices, you know, OSTABU offices within the agency, talking to the COs. If you're seeing postings out there, we're putting points of contact. And the other thing is engage early, right? So really focus on the acquisition forecast that the agencies are putting out. GSA is working a combined forecast for the entire federal government. Really leverage that information for y'all that are seeking business with the government to understand what our needs are and what our demand signal is.
So I'll answer the question a slightly different way, but from a program acquisition sort of perspective, right? With first starting off with, you know, crappy market research predated AI. So, you know, whether or not somebody was lazy and they chose the incumbent because it was the easiest path, course of least resistance, that wasn't because of AI. So let's, you know, put that aside. But I'll give you an example of, you know, talking about market research, how specifically market research is helping, right? And AI is helping. So, you know, I'm thinking through a project right now, you know, just, and one of the things that I read on one of the blogs was, you know, MCP moved from version 1 to sort of version 2. And I'm like, that's a very dense technical topic, right? And if somebody doesn't do it day in, day out, you know, orchestration day in, day out, you can just not understand, right? You could get sucked into the marketing buzz. So I used a large language model in deep thinking mode, right? And I said, tell me about stateless architecture and how it works in Model Context Protocol. And I got a 3-page, really good, like I'd say an undergraduate explanation, because I'm not looking for a 5th grade explanation. And I was able to get that work done. And then what that did was I had an industry meeting that afternoon. It really helped me hone down the questions and the back and forth and have a very educated discussion with a hyperscaler on what that means and what it means in terms of application latency and how the calls were going to work and things were going to work, which I wouldn't have had if I didn't know what the state was. And basically I would have to depend on somebody to come in, prepare a 7-point PowerPoint slide, sit with me, and 4 weeks later I'd be lost, right? But I was able to do that in about half an hour. I just put that in the large language model, did some more work, did some more meetings, came back, took some time, 15 minutes, read up on it, understood it, and I had a much better meeting because of that, right? So in that sense, AI is really helping, but it only helps if you already have some domain knowledge and you know what you want to ask, right? So in that sense, even being able to have that understanding, talk back to my procurement officers and say, hey, we need to, update this old statement of work so that, incorporate this new feedback in there is very helpful. So that's how AI really helps like folks like me in market research.
You want the last word, Birgit?
Thank you. And if you need to supplement your market research, GSA offers market research as a service. It's a free service to agencies, and you can reach us through cloudinfo@gsa.gov, and we'll be happy to help you set up your market research as a service, RFI.
Well, great. This is a really interesting panel. Folks, give it up for our panelists. Thank you.